Monday mornings with Matt and Kevin. What's in the news? Topics that come up around the dinner table will be given the truth treatment with no punches held and no falsehood left standing. These two will debate real-life issues from a Catholic perspective every Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern.
And now, here are your hosts, Matt and Kevin.
Oh, good morning on this beautiful Monday morning. It's actually snowing here. Okay, we're recording on a Sunday, but it's been snowing the last few days. I just got back from Tuscany to a huge snowstorm. It's supposed to snow for like the rest of the week. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, right. It's just like, come on. No, I've had enough of that. That's over. Let's bring spring. No, it's been snowing. It's been freezing cold here in Bavaria. So a little bit of a complaint to start the show. But, you know, again, enjoying the coffee. Hopefully you all are as well. Good to be back here with Matt after a week off down. Yeah, he spent that down in Tuscany. Awesome time. Matt's going to have to come with us one of these days. Really beautiful vacation. Went to a what do you call it? An organic farm, I suppose, had horses and donkeys and fed us pizza and pasta, and kids loved it. No, it was very cool. Very, very fun times in the middle of Tuscany. So I highly recommend that. And again, Matt's just going to, he keeps saying he's Italian, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
We were joking before we went on that those people don't even know the name of the Pope.
Probably not.
You know,
they live out there. They are in the boonies. They you know, my wife and I
recognizing resistors.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're talking about that. You know, these things that we always think about, you know, living in this perfect place with perfect houses and perfect streets. And I can tell you, middle of Tuscany ain't that. But you wondered, you know, are their lives that much worse? You know, their closest grocery store is 30 minutes away. They're on dirt roads that ruin your car suspension. But boy, you have some peace, man. It is so quiet. It's just incredible. It's really an interesting and something people should try. Even if it's in America, you got plenty of opportunities. Go out somewhere really quiet for a week, and it'll have you considering life a little bit. Pretty cool. But today we want to talk about a couple topics. Matt wants to talk about a bill that just passed. Obviously, good news. It's only ever good news coming out of the American government, right, Matt?
Only. Yes, yeah. I mean, a model,
good stuff. Yeah,
a model of fairness and beauty and righteousness and just laws.
Spending money on America, you know, closing the borders, no more money to Ukraine. That I think, right, Matt? That's basically.
No. Why would we do that? Have you ever seen the rant of was it Glenn Beck? It was Glenn Beck. There's footage of Glenn Beck years ago, and he was screaming on his radio show, screaming off the top of his lungs. You know, like he was screaming, "Get off my phone!" to somebody who was calling in the show and yelling at him. And I can see why, you know, back then I used to say to myself, why are people getting so upset? Why are people like him just screaming on the air? And then, you know, you follow the politics more and more, and it's like, man, I could see why. Just over the weekend, $95 billion, that's with a B, $1 billion passed to fund Ukraine, a little bit to Israel, because, you know, that's an obligation, and banning TikTok. First, I want to throw out there, Kev, really quickly. Why is it, and people were really taking to Twitter and all of that to kind of voice their concerns, why is it that no matter who the Republicans put forward as Speaker of the House, they cave? It's every time.
Maybe because they're all bad.
But the thing is they nominate, remember after they ousted Kevin McCarthy, they put forth this guy, Mike Johnson, as some radical far right based, you know, you throw the adjective at him, how he's going to really lead the right wing of this Republican Party and have that conservative mindset and challenge Biden. And he caved right away. And we didn't see this. I think you and I have gone on about this before. We didn't see this with Pelosi. I don't recall really hearing news of Pelosi in the Democratic chamber or whatever, just caving into Republican demands. I don't think it seems to really go that way. It doesn't work out that way. And the thing that people are most upset about is they didn't pass a border bill. Again, he seemed to have taken no interest in it whatsoever. And now here we are sending billions and billions. I finished my taxes, by the way, and somebody posted on Twitter, I still call it Twitter, it's X, whatever, but somebody posted on Twitter, I might as well just make my check out to Ukraine. Why am I even sending it to the United States Treasury, just straight to Ukraine? And we've talked about this on the show time and time again. And it seems like every time we do a show, I don't know, maybe once a month or so, we're talking about a new package to send over there. They're not even a part of NATO. They're not even in any sort of alliance whatsoever. We just have this very strange so-called obligation. But no matter who the Republicans nominate as speaker, no matter who they get to put in the House, it seems like they're never satisfied. And this person, whoever it is, caves to Democrat pressure, and they fail on the border, and they fund foreign nations with our tax dollars. This isn't money that they just print up and say, "Oh, here you go." This comes out of our pockets, and why?
Sorry, yeah, two comments. I mean, I'd say first of all, commenting on the politics side, I'd say, pretty much one side is one side has the money. One side is bought and paid for already. So the Democrats, they're in it. The people who have the money are already on their side. So the people who have the money, then have you seen Mr. Smith Goes to Washington? Jimmy Stewart back in the 1940s. Watch it. It's really fascinating because it's the same. This is back in the 1940s, probably late 40s, maybe early 40s actually. And it's a politician who's this young, really trying to change the world, and he gets bribed like immediately, and it pretty much shows that he can't do anything. Nothing's going to pass because, well, he doesn't have the backing of the people with money. And I think that's what it is. So pretty much, I think you get these guys who are, they're all gung ho and they're ready to go. And then they get in and it's like, no, you're not going to do that. So either they get threatened or someone says, okay, no, tell you what, you want to survive in this business. You want to make some money. You're going to do this. And I think that's often the case. If not, I think there are absolutely some where they say, hey bro, you like your family, you want them to survive. I do really think that actually exists.
Well, do you want to know what's interesting? Really quick to comment on that. One of the people who lives actually pretty close to me, same town, got elected to Congress as a House representative, and she campaigned. She's a Democrat, and I actually met with her, and we had a little event here. She's a Democrat, but we spoke together, and she actually was campaigning and had these rallies here in this state, here in this town, to oppose Nancy Pelosi. And she was like, it's time for new Democratic leadership. It's time for a new voice in Congress. And although I'm, running as a Democrat or whatever, we need new young leadership. And I will oppose Nancy Pelosi when I get to Washington. Kev, she got elected. She won. And when she went to DC, our little town Facebook chat here was exploding because the first thing she did was endorse Nancy Pelosi for Speaker of the House. And it was one of those moments where it was like, these people, they get there and then they realize if you want to play, you've got to basically shut your mouth and do what the powers that be tell you to do. And I think that's prevalent. If it's prevalent here, if it happened here, it's probably happened across the whole nation. So that's very, very true.
No, absolutely. And to comment on the other side, on the Ukrainian side, this is pretty interesting. I work with two Ukrainian ladies. One is an older one who has family still in Kiev or near Kiev. And she really, I think, is truly affected by it and has, witnessed bombings, and her family is there. So she's very nervous about it. And truly is someone who I think has come here because it's dangerous there, and is very sad about it because her family's in danger. And I really believe her. She is really truly an asylum seeker, as we'd say here in Germany. Now, the other one, the young gal, I don't know, 20, 21, something like that. And I asked her, I said, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And she's like, oh yeah, no, I don't really like it. I actually kind of hate it here. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Okay. Why is that? And she said, well, I just don't like it because we live in the middle of nowhere. Keep that in mind. So our town is really, truly out there. It's a podunk town. And she's like, yeah, there's just nothing to do. I really much prefer Kiev. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. So why are you here? And she said, well, it's because I don't have to pay for my rent. I can save money. So she's like, yeah. So I asked her, wait, what do you mean? She said, yeah, I get a free lodgings. I get money every month, and I get everything paid for. So if I come and get a job, then everything I can just save up, and I'll stay here for a year or so, save up my money, and then travel the world or go somewhere else. And it just kind of like blew my mind. I was like, wait, what? And so and this is a girl who, she's not fleeing anything. She wasn't in danger. She didn't feel threatened. She's just here because she's taking advantage of the system. And so there are two sides. Right. And I think that's absolutely true. There are people truly who are fleeing, and there is a war, and it is tragic. And I think some people do need to be taken in and cared for, especially women and children. And some of them absolutely see a system that is broken and just say, hey, heck yeah, pay for my rent, baby.
I wonder, Kev, if we can find like a balance. Because I saw this video somebody posted, I forget what platform, but they were in Ukraine. and there was a night festival in Ukraine, and there was parties and parades and food and music and all of that and entertainment, and people were dancing in the streets. And the woman commented saying, like, there is no war. Don't let the media blow this out of proportion to you. There might be conflict, but don't develop this perception that everybody in Ukraine is just hiding under their beds 24/7. People are living their lives as normal and having enjoying their days. This conflict is greatly over exaggerated. I don't know. I see, because you mentioned both sides of that, and I could see how there are two sides, but I do wonder how much of it is exaggerated, because we know the media just isn't the straight shooter that we would like it to be. So people that are actually on the ground, in my experience, have reported things that are different. Not all of them, but have reported some things that are different. So it does make me think, like, what really is going on here, and why is there this absolute urgency to constantly funnel them billions of dollars? Do you think that's possible? Do you think that there's actually this gross exaggeration of what's going on? I think
no,
I think it happens
question.
all the time.
No, and I think that I know for sure. Again, I'm not going to say what's all happening there. And again, I think there are people who actually flee, but I know for sure. And again, I've talked to these ladies. This is absolutely from firsthand conversations. They both, the older lady goes back to Ukraine, to Kiev for vacation. And the younger one is, I think, going back in the next couple of weeks to go to just finish up her paperwork. Now, just tell me,
make it sound like it's a war-torn country.
Yeah,
right?
that's kind of like, do you think you'd be doing that during World War II? Would you just be, I'm just going to walk back into Warsaw, I'm just going to head back to Warsaw, get some paperwork, come back. I'm just going to go and hang out on the beaches. No, you're done. You are, until maybe the end of the war, you're stuck. And that makes you wonder, okay, I get it. There is stuff happening. There are bombs have hit Kiev.
Sure.
But I do think that absolutely it is misrepresented. I think that's absolutely, but of course it has to be. If you're sending $8 billion, and Matt, this is the craziest thing about all of this, and this is absolutely true. I don't care how liberal you are. Everyone can look this up and know it. Ukraine, before this all happened, so let's go back, 4 years now, 3 years. Ukraine was known worldwide. You can find this in print everywhere. It was known worldwide as like the most corrupt country on earth. It was known for that. It was absolutely known for being so corrupt. This is where people would funnel their money through and stuff. That's where the whole Biden laptop.
Right. Biden and his son, right? Exactly.
Question that Biden and his son were funneling money through Ukraine. So why is it that we just kind of, American people are like, we don't want to send money to Ukraine, when it's like, well, wait, Ukraine. They're not. This isn't even. It's like Israel. Okay, I'm not in favor of that either, but okay, it makes sense. They are our allies. Alliance that they've been our allies for decades. That makes a lot more sense. Ukraine hasn't been our allies. This has been the most corrupt country on earth, and all of a sudden, we're sending $80 billion. I wonder why it is that everyone in government comes out as millionaires, Matt. Interesting. Pretty interesting.
And I think too that if we were to really look at this war, I think Russia could just topple Ukraine without hesitation. I think the Russian, unless I have been misinformed, the Russian military, although depleted in a lot of ways, and although it's archaic in some aspects of it from what I've read, could absolutely just pound the floor with Ukraine. I think they could totally take what they wanted. Very similar to like the U.S. and Iraq. I mean, I think if the U.S. wanted to just flatten Iraq, I mean, they have certainly the capability to do it. But the question is, why isn't Putin doing it? If his interests were really to expand on how they say he wanted and to restore this sort of Soviet, ally, then why isn't he doing it? What is he holding back on? So I think there's a lot of things that are unsaid here, and it's probably going to be one of those things where nothing ever happens, right? I mean, we had this conflict with Iran and Israel over the last week or so, and I think already that kind of has left the mouths of the media talking pieces. But in this bill, Kev, I want to touch on this really quick too. In this bill that passed to fund Ukraine was a TikTok ban, and we've heard about that for a long time. And I found this article on Yahoo, I think it was, where this young girl, probably 19, 20 years old, said, we make doctor-ish salaries on TikTok. What am I going to do now? And my first question is, can I do that? How?
Right.
How are people making 6-7 figures on TikTok? But from what I get to, it's not, people are panicking that like, we're just going to lose the app overnight. You're going to wake up and TikTok's going to be off Americans' phones. And I guess that's not the case. It has to, it'll take 1 year to kind of like demonetize the platform, and then it has to be put up for sale. So if it is banned in whatever sort of circumstance, it's going to take years. But I love how they sneak these things in too. Remember when Pelosi said we have to pass the bill and then read it? they throw these things in there that's like, oh, by the way, we just did X, Y, and Z, and it really just shows how corrupt everything really is. And somebody made a great point, and I agree with it. They said Republicans of today are liberals, and Democrats of today are radical leftist revolutionaries, progressives. And I think that's a really good description. I'll say it again. Republicans of today are liberals, and the Democrats of today are far left progressive revolutionaries. I think it's really, really true. There's no conservatism here, Kev. They throw money around everywhere. Most of the Republicans are war hawks. It's really, really bad. And again, we're all doing our taxes around this time, and we're watching our tax money go overseas to all these crazy things that we don't consent to. But we can't fund the border. We don't have enough money. They told us, remember the whole thing? We didn't have enough. Where are we going to get this money to build the wall? We don't have the money for it. Oh man, look at what is thrown overseas. What are you going to do without your TikTok, Kev? What are you going to do without it? Your seven stream.
I don't know.
Your 7 stream
hours a day to spend on something else. I think
it's pretty interesting. So I everything could have a Catholic element to it, which is pretty good. I checked it out, and there is Bishop Sanborn has a channel on there, and there is some good content on there Catholic wise, but a lot of it just seems to be like people just making weird. I used to like Vine. Did you have Vine?
Yeah.
You had Vine.
Yeah, for a short time. Yeah.
You had Vine. That was funny. People used to pull pranks.
Right.
And in videotape, I remember this one, her grandmother, this guy's grandmother was carrying bottles of water into the house, and he blew his car horn, and she tossed the gallon of water into the sky. I thought it was funny. And now, I don't know. I miss Do It for the Vine. It was a better world, Kev.
It was, yeah. No,
a better world.
It's crazy. I mean, when you look at what's going on in the government and in the world, it really is a circus. And I think it's interesting. It's another person. I watched a couple of interviews with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's a part of Congress.
I don't know what I think of her.
I don't really. I don't like her. She drives me. I actually don't like. She gets on my nerves, but she really does. Like, some of the interviews she's done is just crazy to hear the stories of Congress, like how these things are passed, that you don't even have to be there, no one ever reads it, that people, you're really like, they don't know what's in it.
Do we really think they're reading these things?
No,
these
they don't.
bills that they put out are 900 pages.
Yeah, they're like 900. They admit it. They do that on purpose. They make it as long as possible so that people don't read it. They give a couple talking points, and they give $1 billion to gender studies. That's the truth. Like, that's actually what happens, and it's wild. I mean, it just shows you we live in a kangaroo society. I mean,
I remember being,
can't make it up, in
high school civics class, and they would show us, like, this is what Congress passed overnight, and they would have a stack of papers, and it would be like 2 reams of paper high. And I would think to myself back in high school, like, these people are so smart. Like, they could, here I am, can barely read 10 pages in a day, and they're reading like these novels and novels and novels, like, overnight. So like, we're so lucky and fortunate to be governed by such intellectual, gifted, highly intelligent people. That's what I used to think. Like, wow, these people are just so smart. And then I realized probably half of them can't even read. You think that guy from Pennsylvania, what's his name, Fetterman, can read? He probably can't. He probably can't read.
Yeah, right. Like literally, like, his brain is scrambled. I really don't know if he can actually read. No, that's exactly right. And it's one of those things. It's like, I mean, if I have someone representing me, I don't necessarily need them to be able to read. But the problem then is, if they can't read, then you can't make it so that they have to read 900 pages in order to pass a bill. Something has to change. I mean, even if it's just like, okay, you have to give us the bullet points on one sheet of paper that have to be everything of the, all the main portions of it, or else it cannot be passed. And that something like that. This is not rocket science, Matt. I've said this for a while, Kev. I am convinced that the 5 guys who are mowing their lawns on my street this morning could come together and run this country better than these quote unquote experts in DC. Probably could. I have no doubt about it. Just these 5 guys, 6 guys, whoever, that are mowing the lawn, doing their yard work, picking flowers, whatever, on the street, and on this beautiful sunny morning, could get together and run the government better than what these experts have gone to school for. They have all these degrees, and I'm political science expert or whatever. Where has it gotten us? Yeah. I mean, what has gotten better? Right? They come with all these accolades and all this experience and all of these so-called talent or whatever, and genius and intellectual capabilities, for what? Debt and debt and debt and wars and wars and wars and chaos and stock market crashes. So good thing they're so smart. Like, man. And then we fund the stupidest stuff. I could do it. Where's Taylor Marshall? Yeah, where's Taylor? Yeah, President
Where's his
Marshall.
candidacy?
Yeah, I know. Seriously, man. I wish that had lasted longer than a day.
I wish. I don't know if I would have voted for him, but I wish I would have liked to have
might
seen
have.
him on the debate stage.
I might have voted for him, Matt. That's the crazy thing. I actually was.
I
It
might
was a
have.
really interesting moral debate because if he had actually stayed in there, obviously he didn't, and it was clearly a farce. But if he had,
Right.
and he was even kind of remotely possible to win, I mean, which he wouldn't be, but that's a real moral question. I would love to talk to Father McKenna about that because then you really have the question. You have a guy who truly is standing for everything we stand for. He would. I mean, morally, the guy is totally on point. And I think you might actually be obliged to vote for him. He may have gotten every single Catholic vote and should have. It would have been interesting. I was hoping you'd do it just because it would really make for a really interesting conversation. Obviously, again, it lasted a day. He got his Patreon, a little bit more money rolling in, and then backed up, which was pretty sad.
I just wanted to have seen him on because we said this before. When was the last time? And I think he would have done this probably. When was the last time any Republican? Forget the Democrats. Any Republican would have stood on the stage and called abortion a mortal sin.
Yeah,
they all, they talk about restrictions and 9 months, 6 months,
Alan
whatever.
Keyes, maybe that's actually a good.
Oh, he might have done it.
I don't know, but he made it. If anyone, it would have been
probably.
him.
If any, Alan Keyes. Pat Buchanan was an interesting candidate some years ago too. I think he had. I think we missed out on him. But Alan Keyes, I remember. And he was like a cool guy too. Sharp. He used to wear the hat. He used to have a feather in his hat. Like he was a smooth. He was intelligent. There's a debate on YouTube with him. Him and Obama actually when they were in Illinois. You've seen it, debating game, and he made an actual it wasn't just a mumble jumble it's
awesome.
He actually articulated a very.
It's the best I've seen. I don't know if I've ever seen a better response to why it doesn't work, why gay marriage doesn't work. It's fantastic. Look that up, guys. Alan Keyes versus Obama. Keyes, yes. You'll find it. It's gay really, marriage, really good. Really, really highly recommend.
There are no Republicans with that sort of intellect, I feel like, today.
No, I don't think so either. No,
I mean, maybe
like a Ben Carson, but I mean the issue with Ben Carson, I don't know if he's the sharpest. He's smart, but I don't know if he's not like Alan Keyes had had a very sharp mind. I don't know if
he was very right. He was very quick. Ben Carson wouldn't be fit. I mean, he might have been fit for a position, whatever, but he doesn't have. I don't think he has what it takes to go. He's too much too soft. He's very, 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 very soft. You can't have that today.
Trump's a jerk, but the dude is not. He's not soft. He is not.
Well,
soft.
that's why Jeb. That's why I think he kind of contributed because, and we've brought this point up several times before, but he stood on that debate stage and he said to their face what many Americans in their homes on their couches in front of their televisions thought.
Yeah.
And he bullied himself in. He truly bullied it. And people they soaked it up because they were tired of Chris Christie, of Jeb Bush, of Marco Rubio, you name all the names. And they had all these things to say, but without any platform to reach them. Well, Donald Trump was the mouthpiece of millions of Americans who wanted to insult these people to their face. And he did it.
Well, it was so funny. If you remember the time, because I was at the time,
I loved it. It was fun.
Vaguely a Ted Cruz fan, back.
As was I. I voted for Ted Cruz,
and he, I think I did too. Yeah, I don't remember if I voted. I may have been gone already, but I think so. And anyway, he was a guy who was, he said all the right things, and he was very suave and calm and sharp. But it was so funny when you looked at the comparison. Like he would, when he insulted someone, it was actually kind of a nice way, or it's very smirky.
He wasn't brash.
Trump would just come as like, "You are idiots." It's just like, "Yep, thanks." It's true.
It's true.
It's pathetic, and it shouldn't be presidential. But there is, you see that he flipped the scales. It was just got to be too snakish, too oil salesman, too
Well, I know it wasn't very presidential
in a very nice way. Yeah,
right. But people were tired of these intellectual elites who all had their law degrees and their law backgrounds, just talking like this as if we were talking on NPR, exactly. Like that. People were so over that, and so he got bashed for it by some. Like he talks like a fifth grader. Well. I remember when he called the illegal immigrants bad dudes. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
Like, it's awesome. So we're being invaded by some pretty bad dudes.
Speaking of invasions, Matt.
Yes.
Speaking of invasions,
this is
odd. That was a good segue, right? We have been invaded supposedly by according to Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan, we're being invaded by something that is unidentifiable. Something that is unidentifiable. What do they call them now? UAPs? It's UFOs. That's what we've always called them.
They've said that? I have not heard that.
They call them UAPs, I think.
UAPs.
What is that? I think they call them UAPs now. It's not UFOs. They call them, I think it's UAPs. But so they had a show. So a really interesting show. I don't know. I'd never recommend Joe Rogan because, well, he's Joe Rogan. He's pretty sleazy. But
Yeah.
there's a couple F-bombs in this interview. But really, overall, it's pretty fine. I think it's pretty recommendable and very interesting. Matt, before we talk about aliens, what really blew me away in this interview, this is the two biggest media heads in the world. And they're talking about 9/11. They're talking about JFK. They're talking about the Fed. I mean, like they covered very briefly almost every conspiracy theory out there. And it just makes me wonder anymore. Are these things even conspiracy theories anymore? If these two guys can put them out in the mainstream to tens of millions, maybe these things are not going to be that crazy anymore to believe that, I guess to believe that aliens exist, that JFK was killed by the CIA, etc. What do you think about that?
JFK? Oh, I believe he was definitely killed by the CIA.
Yeah.
I definitely think that was an inside operation. I was actually just talking to somebody about that last week. I think that was definitely an operation. But so wait, are you saying that these big talking heads are letting information out that shouldn't be said? Is that what you're saying?
I just think that they're changing the landscape. I think it's going to be now it used to be that, okay, you can't say that. You can't say 9/11 was weird and strange. And something odd went on. And now these two guys do it. And it's kind of like, okay, well then maybe now it's kind of normal. Maybe now you can say that 9/11 was odd, that something was very strange about the entire story. And I think maybe now it's maybe it'll be more allowed because these guys are just,
I bet, Kev,
putting it out there.
Yeah. Here's what's funny too is I was actually what's his name? Steven Heiner? Is that his name? Yeah. I made a few tweets to him the other day because the United States government propped up Saddam Hussein. They put him into power. And he provided some stability to the Middle East, and then we took him out of power. And so you think about things like 9/11 and all that, and I almost thought to myself, like, it wouldn't shock me, and this is crazy, and I don't mean what I'm about to say, but I wouldn't be shocked if they came out there and they said, you know what, Osama bin Laden is a fictional character. No such person ever existed. It was a computer generated image. It just wouldn't shock me. Like, I don't think that's the case. I think he probably did exist. His involvement in 9/11, I think, is up for debate. But if they were to come out with these crazy things that so and so was never even a real, I'd be like, okay, I believe it. And I think that more and more these big talking heads, like you said, Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, putting this stuff out there. I admire Joe Rogan. I think you're right. He's got a lot of things that are very questionable, but at least he's willing to have the conversations. He's allowing people to speak, and he's allowing people who really might not have a platform otherwise to come on the show and talk about both sides. I think he really elevated the anti-vaccine platform, not just being anti-vax, but I think he allowed the other side to come on and present their own arguments for it. And so now you've got these people saying that, did you want to mention what Tucker Carlson said about the aliens?
Yeah, I wanted to ask
because
you,
I think this is
it's really interesting. So pretty much they talk about it, they say they definitely exist. That's where they start. These things exist, and so the question is, they gave two options, or Tucker Carlson pretty much gave two options. Now they both did. Joe Rogan pretty much believes that it is something created by the government that we can't understand. It would never seen if they haven't released to us, but he seems to believe that is because they captured a UFO back in the 1940s, which they then counter or reverse engineered and then created the technology. So I think he believes aliens crashed from another planet, and now the government has technology, and that's what we see most of the time. That's Joe Rogan's idea. So Tucker Carlson's idea, or actually, I guess that's the there's that. I guess he kind of wrapped in two ideas. One, pretty much that they come from a different planet. They're aliens, like we think, little green men. Two is that the government just has technology that we don't understand, and they fly things up in the sky, and we see them every now and then. Three is Tucker Carlson's idea that they are demons. So they are demons that we have, can see and experience. Now, where I think you would agree with me, Tucker Carlson goes a little bit off, I suppose, is that he says that there have been many reports from the military of military personnel being killed by these quote unquote entities. And so if that's the case, which I've honestly never heard, I've heard of them seeing them. I've never heard of them being killed, but Tucker Carlson's more in the know than
several
I am.
Times. Yeah, right. And he said several times.
Right. He did. But then the question becomes, can a demon go and kill military personnel? I don't. So Matt, I guess the first question for you is, what
Well,
do you think? Do you think these things exist? And if they do, what do you think they are?
well, I think they definitely exist, and I think they're demons. That would be my first guess. And
Interesting. Okay.
I think Tucker says that we don't have, man, I forget the actual quote, but he said that like we don't have any footage or any knowledge of them like coming in and out of other
Mhm.
maybe universes or other solar systems, whatever. They're just appearing. And I believe he says that, and I
Yeah.
forget the way he actually worded it, but he says there's no, because Joe Rogan said, are they coming from another planet or from whatever else? And Tucker says, well, no, we don't have any intelligence on them coming in and out. They're just appearing there, and they're there. So I guess the thing would be is, and I think Tucker actually said, like, are these demons or angels flying certain pieces of equipment, which would make no sense. Like,
Mhm.
where do
Right.
they have their own spaceship? I don't know. But what's going up and down? We know that the demons could morph. We know that they could show, take on certain shapes and whatnot, and do things that obviously are contrary to law. They're not bound by those governing laws. But that was the thing too that was strange to me, is killing. Tucker Carlson said they killed a few military personnel, and
Yeah.
as we said before, how is that? I'm not an expert, but I don't think that it would be possible. And like we said earlier, if it was possible, why aren't demons just showing up and just killing us? I don't know. But what's interesting is that in this more so atheistic world, we're talking about the possibility of demons,
Right.
right? Coming up in a pretty high platform conversation.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I wish I had more and I feel like people know a lot more than what they're saying. And every president that I know of, Bush, Obama, Trump, that has been pressed on it, they don't really speak of it. And if they did, they're probably lying. Wouldn't trust any
See,
of them.
to me,
But
that makes me think that must be that. My opinion is that it's government. I think it's. I'm a big
you
subscriber
think it's?
to Nikola Tesla. I think these are machines that have been.
But then why isn't somebody saying it?
Yeah, because I think they're top secret. You know, they are truly, like, if you mention this to anyone, you're dead. Boom. You know, we're gonna kill you.
Maybe that's why they got killed, because somebody did say, I actually, now that I'm having a flashback, I think me and you mentioned this before, that it's just U.S. technology that hasn't been revealed yet to
Yeah, that's what I
people.
think.
That it's almost like advanced military capabilities but
Yeah.
but the thing that I don't, if this is military capabilities, why are there military pilots saying, what is that? And why aren't they told to
Oh,
just,
because I think that yeah, sure. I think you have a what, fifth branch, sixth branch, whatever it is of the military, and that is your kind of your top
like
secret
the
branch.
Navy SEAL, like
It's
SEAL Team
literally
6 or whatever, they'll
Roswell.
talk
Yeah,
about it,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, you have places that literally only the top personnel can go, and your general pilot can't go to these places. They're written into a certain amount, and certainly not to top secret stuff. So I think that the most likely, to me, it just makes sense. And you hear all these stories of people being abducted, Matt, and this is really interesting. So I mean,
With the laser beam.
well, right, but hear me out. This is really interesting because I've seen. I used to watch. I shouldn't say I used to watch these. I used to watch Unsolved Mysteries. Amazing show.
Oh
But,
yeah, it
you know,
could be
back in
very
the day.
addicting. Could be
Dun-dun.
very
Yeah,
addicting.
exactly.
Yeah,
And so
very
there's a
addicting.
couple of them where they interview some of these people who claim to have been abducted, and some of them are screwballs, are crazy, but some of
Yeah.
them absolutely do
A
not
little too
seem
much
crazy.
beer.
They seem very normal, very down to earth. Some of them, I think, were Catholic. I mean, very normal people. And my thought, why don't we just believe that the government abducted them and did tests on them? I mean, that totally makes sense. I mean, why we know for sure the government would do it. The government has been proven to have tested on its own people without their knowledge or permission. Often. They've done that often in the past since the 1950s. That is absolute fact. I think it's I always forget the name of it. I think it was like the Tuskegee experiment, something like that. There was a town, I think it was in Alabama, that they sprayed poison. They just poisoned the
Oh
people,
yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
like to do it like as a test, like to test the poison on a population. This has come out, guys. I'll probably have to look that up. I think it's the
Saddam
Tuskegee
Hussein did it.
experiment or something like that. It's a test, okay, will this kill people or not? So anyway, they would do this kind
How
of
it
stuff.
goes, it wouldn't shock me,
Morally,
yeah.
they don't care whatsoever. So I think that these people who claim to have been abducted, they probably were. Probably by government people who picked them up, brought them to this crazy room, kept them sedated, did all these weird experiments, and maybe part of it was to keep in the public consciousness this idea of another being, this idea that aliens exist, and they're going to come and they're going to kill us or whatever. I think it's an interesting idea. I also think it's interesting to consider them as demons. I think that's certainly possible, but I lean towards government.
Well, there will be demons of the air, right? We know that there will be demons of the air. So, I mean, I guess they could be. But did you ever see that interview? It's a supposed interview with an alien from maybe the 80s or the 70s or
No,
maybe
I
even
didn't see that.
60s. Oh, it's very strange. It's actually been a video that's been mostly banned. Like, I don't think you can find it anymore. The algorithm has kind of gotten rid of it, but there are some sources where you can kind of finagle and pull it back up. And they have this alien who uh, is from, he claims to be from whatever year in the future, and it's very strange. Like this is supposed to be official United States government footage, and the alien is
Mhm.
sitting at the table, and the question that obviously they bring up to him is they talk about God and religion, and he says an intelligent being has no need for religion or something along those lines. So it makes, I'm thinking like a demon would, a
Sound like
demon
an
wouldn't, I
op.
don't know if
Yeah.
I don't know if a demon would deny God. That would kind of be an odd sort of,
Yeah.
but I wonder if would people, it's almost like the Thanksgiving food debate. Are people going to agree with you or going to
I'm
agree with
curious
me?
too.
Eh.
I think many people just say they don't exist at all, but I think we've gotten to a point
Well,
where
there's something
there
there. We
is
just, of
something that has been
course,
flying
I'm being
around in the
told by,
skies for 60 years that
and
it's
does the president
something.
know?
Yeah,
Do they?
I think so.
Probably.
Yeah.
Joe Biden. I'm surprised. I'm surprised he hasn't slipped. That guy,
That's a good point.
he did that. He actually there's he revealed the guy next to him who has the nuclear codes. You ever seen that video?
Mm-mm.
He goes, "Oh, it's hilarious." He's at an event, and there's people around him, and he goes, "There's a guy." This is Biden. And he goes, "There's a guy who follows me around, who carries the nuclear codes. Where are you, Chuck? Stand up so everybody can see you." And everybody's eyes get really wide. You're
Wow.
not supposed to reveal what that is.
What a
So
guy.
I'm surprised that he hasn't slipped and said something about it. But um, I think so. That's what got me was the demons can't. How are they killing people? They're
Yeah.
spiritual. I don't think they have. I mean, I'm not an angelic expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think they could do that.
I don't think so
But
either.
I could actually see, you're right, like it being too much, we need to kill you, sort of government sort of operation, which I wouldn't put it past anybody. But I guess the thing would be is, what's the technology for? I don't know. But they're
Well,
just
I think the
it
interesting question is
goes
I
back to
think
the
they
balloon thing too.
well there's
Oh, look, the balloon.
yeah, right, exactly. Oh no. Oh no. There's a balloon over America. What should we do? Shoot it?
We
I
shot
don't
it
know.
when
Yeah.
it got to the Carolina coast.
Wild. Yeah, that was one of the
Made
dumbest
no
things I've ever.
sense.
Yeah, I just imagine some farmers out in Montana
Yeah. Oh, we
shooting
lost
it down.
it.
Like, oh, we'll
Yeah.
take care of it ourselves. Boom, 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 boom. That's so dumb. Yeah, but I think absolutely there's technology that they don't want us to know about
Oh
primarily.
yes.
Primarily because and this is going to sound really conspiratorial, Matt, but primarily because
Sure, I love them.
there are certain things that we have in this life that are controlled so that we can't have better lives. And I think it's been
Oh yeah.
absolutely proven. Look back in the day with the locomotives, because people who owned the locomotives, the trains, they had all the money. So the worst possible thing for them was to give another form of transportation. So it's the same now.
Mhm.
Who has all the money? Okay, pharmaceutical companies and oil, right? So oil, your richest people on earth are people who own all the oil. And so the worst possible thing for them is some form of energy that doesn't use oil. So that's it. Again, it sounds like a conspiracy theory. It just
Hmm.
makes sense. I mean, there's these people have all the money. They would lose all of the money if someone finds another way to do it. Now you can say with electric
Sure.
cars, but that's not that simple because electric cars, to have an electric grid, guess what? They're going to have oil because electricity doesn't come out of nowhere. They have to create it from something, and these cars are going to plug in to something. So it's one of the dumbest debates ever. They're just like, yeah, we're just going to use electricity. Hey, bro, do you know where electricity comes from? I think people, Matt, I'm not
Mm.
kidding. I think people really think that you just plug it into the wall and it'll
And there
charge.
it comes.
And there it
And
is. You
there,
just
and there
have
it
you have
is.
electricity in your house,
Magically.
Matt. Matt, it's amazing.
You turn on the water faucet
Yeah,
and water just magically falls out.
it's a miracle. But Matt, I'm not kidding. I bet you 90% of people graduating high school these days, that's what they think. That is
Oh,
how
for
dumb
sure.
our
Oh,
earth
for
is.
sure.
They don't understand. They don't care. No one will teach them. And so that being the case, the government, of course, they want to hide these things because they're getting paid by the people who own the oil. So it's
Mhm.
I think absolutely. I mean, again, just even look a little bit into Nikola Tesla. He had he had stuff back 100 years ago, more than 100, that blows your mind. It's like, wait, he could do what in 1920? And you're saying now we're still driving, on four wheels with oil? No way.
Right.
No way.
Right.
I'm sorry that
Right.
they purposely make sure that we have to use oil. And that I don't see that changing.
I think there are a lot of ways, a lot of things that we actually do that are pretty archaic that we're probably actually very far beyond, but we don't just show it yet. Somebody even, I mean, we know these things because I think somebody said something like, I'm gonna kind of make this up to kind of illustrate my point, but it was something along the lines of like the iPhone that came out in 2022 was thought of in 97 or something like that. It's like, so the technology that we have in our hands today is decades ago technology. Like Steve Jobs had all of these Macs and all these iPads and all of these iPhones in the early 90s. It's just that they were put out at a later date because they have to release things at a certain pace. They have to slowly drip, like the and so we're actually very far ahead of where we say we are. And Steve Jobs had there was a whole documentary on that of how far advanced he really was in what Apple actually knew and the technology Apple had before they put it in the hands of the consumer. So of course, if Apple can do that, I think, and Apple's of course one of the leading technological companies of our time, we're probably far more advanced in many, many, many things than we actually show for. I mean, even like you said, people, the fact that we probably we get in our cars and we turn we don't have keys anymore, but we're probably so much more beyond that people don't, like driving cars, those what is it, Tesla?
Yeah.
Those self-driving, we've probably mastered that. It's just not out yet. It's not available to the public yet. Do you think there's flying car technology available? Do you think that they actually can do that?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I think that's UFOs. I mean, well, I guess what do you mean?
But a car though,
to make it for the public, I guess
like going up like, I don't know. Like
I think there is something. I'm sure there are ways that they have that you could create something where someone could get in and just fly up. No question. I have no question about it. I mean, I just think that there's these things that I don't think that we think of the laws of physics, but I think that they've quote unquote broken them for a long time. I think they figured out a lot of these different things, and that's another interesting question. I mean, did they do that by themselves, or were they helped by the devil? I think that's another thing that Tucker Carlson brought up. He talked about the atomic bomb. He's like, do you really think that they got that knowledge by themselves? And it's like, woo, that's an interesting question.
Oh, he did. I didn't hear that.
You're sure that's in the longer interview? Again, worth a listen. You got to listen to the full interview, but because Tucker Carlson's very much he's an evangelist, but he's a Baptist, whatever you call him. But very Christian, and you can tell that comes through. He has a lot of ideas. That he's a creationist. I mean, a lot of things. I'm like, hey, there you go, buddy. Let's go. Really good opinions. And I think, as you said, Episcopalian. That's the one. Yeah. And I think he has a lot of these ideas that I think it's good to get out to millions of people that they're going to start thinking, God, the devil inspired people to create an atomic bomb. I'm not saying that's the case, but it's certainly an interesting thought, and I think that's And
what people forget too is that Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they were very prominent Catholic cities that were just wiped out. I think Catholicism was very high population in those areas and just flattened. Yep. I think Fulton Sheen had actually at the time a pretty good commentary on that as well. Very anti-atomic bomb, but
terrible. Yeah, I always say that I think the U.S. lost its soul when it dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Definitely. Certainly not a Catholic or Christian response, no matter the outcome. Again, it's the ends certainly do not justify the means. And speaking of absolute evil, Matt, we want to end the show with women's basketball.
I wasn't sure what you were going to say. I was like, oh, wow.
Sorry, ladies.
What is this going to be here? The phenomenon of the phenomenon of Caitlin Clark. Did you see her salary, Kev, by the way?
300,000, isn't it?
Over 4 years.
Over 4 years. Was that really
4 years?
What it was?
She's $72,000.
Wow.
A year.
She got like 30 million from Nike or something.
From Nike and all these endorsements.
So
yeah. Of course,
it is fascinating. Which again, I think, of course, you would agree with me that the wage gap is fitting because nobody watches women's basketball. So anyone watching that there's a reason.
Well, right. Where does money come from? Right?
Exactly, Matt. Electricity.
It's kind of like
I'm just going to plug it in, and there comes my paycheck. No, but I mean, it's really she's fascinating. I'm actually I wouldn't say a fan of her. I don't watch her play, but I like the way
she
seems to handle herself, and I'm happy for women's basketball. I mean, I am happy that women competing against women, I'm fine with that being a sport. Hey, go for it. Go and succeed. I think that's pretty cool. I think, especially now that you have men competing against women in so many of these different things. I think it's a good thing for the world to see, hey, women's basketball actually can succeed with women. Shocking.
Speaking of using all those terms, they actually had conversation. Should transgender I'm going to mix this up. Should people who are born as men, people who are born as men and transition to being women, be allowed to play in women's college basketball? That was a new debate, and I guess the South Carolina, who won the title, their coach said yes, we should allow men in as transgender women.
I certainly hope they. I actually hope they do at some point.
I hope some 7'4", 300-pound dude decides that he's a woman.
Yell in a wig. Yeah, because I mean, eventually, because like a lot of these sports, they can just kind of hide because they're not popular. Basketball's big enough. You start messing with this stuff, and people are
swimming or track or whatever. Yeah.
Swimming, track. That you got 10 people watching.
You can get lost in that.
Okay, I'm not saying women's basketball is huge, but I mean it's big and it's bigger.
It's got a platform. It's got a bigger platform.
Yeah, exactly. So you start messing with that. You start competing with some big dude in a wig competing against Caitlin Clark or whoever's next. No way. No.
So what do you think about this? I'm gonna throw this out there because I saw this posted. Is Caitlin Clark capable? The answer is an obvious no, but I'm going to say it anyway. Is Caitlin Clark capable of playing in the NBA?
No.
One big no.
It's just amazing they would even ask.
I can't believe they have that. Yes, I can't believe that's even a converse. They talked about that with Diana Taurasi, who was on the UConn Huskies in 2003 and 4. Can she make it in the NBA? There's no chance at all. No. That somebody like that, and it just goes to the track and the swimming prove it. I mean, we've had people who've been ranked like 400 in men's become women's championships. The athleticism and the physicality of it is a massive gap. So
I would say it's actually an interesting question. My guess is something like if you had the worst player in all the NBA, the worst. So you pick the worst guy who's on a team right now,
probably
during the season. Pick the worst guy. I bet you he could win 1 versus 3 with the best women in the world.
Oh, probably.
That's just how it is. I mean, it's not, but that's fine. I don't understand why this is a big deal. It's like, hey, they're different. Let the women go and again, it's like, hey,
it's very different.
Props to Caitlin Clark. She's really good. She scores a ton, and it's awesome. She shouldn't be compared to men in either way, positively or negatively. She plays women's basketball. Don't compare her to what's happened in points scored or whatever, because it's not the same sport. It's a very silly thing, and it's just like, hey, let her succeed in her own sport, and good for her if she does. I mean, and she will, and she is right now, and I think she will. I think she's the type of person who will very much boost that sport, and again, good for them as long as they don't keep doing dumb things. And that, if anyone would do it, it'd probably be the WNBA saying, yeah, let's bring in a man in here, and right. I don't know. Let. And I guess it's another question. I mean, I guess Catholics maybe busted me for saying that women's basketball is a good thing. I don't watch women's basketball, and I know there are different moral issues with basketball and stuff. So I guess it's a little bit of a touchy subject. So I'm not saying that guys need to go cheer on the women's basketball. So everyone calm down a little bit. I'm just saying it's kind of nice to see the whole gender issue kind of fall away because you have a girl who's just really good at something. So it's like, hey, props to her. And
right.
No worries, I'm not going to be watching women's basketball anytime soon. I am watching my Nuggets, though. Whoop up on the Lakers. Yeah.
Oh, that was, yeah.
Last night.
They're actually, the Lakers had a pretty good season, I think.
Yeah.
Well, not 47 and 30-ish or 5
something like that.
Yeah. Better than what they've been, I guess, lately.
But
LeBron's in the end here. We're seeing the end of.
Well, I bet 1 year. He's going to play one more. He's going to try to play wherever.
Is he the greatest player of all time?
Oh, I honestly can't say. I didn't see enough. I wasn't alive for Jordan. I was alive at the end of Jordan. So I can't really judge it. I haven't watched enough Jordan, but I think you can easily say he's top 2, So
the conversation.
I don't know. He's 1 or 2. It's Jordan or it's LeBron. LeBron's amazing. He's an amazing player. I don't like him as a person. I think
he's very brutal.
Very liberal. He's kind of an idiot, but he's an amazing basketball player. I mean, incredible. Really and he's been he's been a joy to watch. I mean, I haven't liked watching him on the Lakers, but he's a great player. I mean, no question about it. It's silly to say otherwise. But the best player in the world is right now. That's my boy Nikola Jokic, and he is awesome. He is a cool man. He is so. I got to tell one story to end the show. They had an interview of a bunch of the top stars of the NBA, best players, and they asked him a question. They said, how many kids do you think it would take to beat you in a game of basketball? So one versus how many kids, how many of them would it take to beat you? And most of the answers were like, 100, a million, 30, 40. And Nikola Jokic says, I don't know, if the kid's really good, anything could happen. He's so humble. Oh, I love it. He's like, I don't know if the kid's really good.
Oh, that's cool.
No, he's a cool guy. Anyway, cool. on that note, we'll be talking next week. The Nuggets are going to be 3-0. That's going to be pretty exciting next time we talk.
What seeding are they? Are they 2?
2. They should have been 1. They lost at the last game or second to last game. They should have been number 1, but they should sweep the Lakers, and I'll be happy. I'll be happy next Monday. And hopefully you guys all are too. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. Let us know what do you think aliens are, quote unquote aliens, UFOs, because I'm really curious. I think it's a very interesting topic, and it's something that I think is going to be more and more in the news, that they're pushing it. And I've said before, I think it could be that's the event that's coming, an alien invasion.
Alien invasion,
which is going to make it so that the government gets absolute power. It's going to be an Emperor Palpatine moment.
It's like that NASA, what Project Bluebeam? Have you heard of that?
I heard about that, yeah.
Oh, maybe next week we'll go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, let's do that.
It's that whole thing that NASA is capable of controlling what we see in the skies. And they want to imitate the second coming.
No. Oh, well, that I can believe too. I think it's gonna be aliens. I think that maybe they'll test it with aliens, and then it'll be the Antichrist. So yeah, fun things coming up on the Catholic Podcast. All right, Matt.
For your family.
Yeah, exactly. Take care. Yeah, exactly. We will see y'all next Monday. I'm Kevin. He's Matt. See you then. God bless.
Make the world Catholic again.